To do or not to do? That's the question. Doing versus not doing has been, I think, a theme in my life, a theme in my career. Early on, when I got bit with the filmmaking bug, I saw a lot of people and talked to a lot of people, screenwriters, producers, actors, other filmmakers, that had a lot of ideas and had scripts and had, it's kind of the independent film world is a lot of people have a lot of ideas and a lot of scripts and a lot of ambitions to do things, but not a lot of people actually executed. And after a couple of years of, seeing this, I thought, how do I break out of this? How do I differentiate myself from every other sort of starving artist or independent filmmaker who's trying to push that boulder up the hill, trying to get there? I just decided, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. And whether there's an old saying that, we've all heard it. We use it here at Mediajuice a lot, which is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. Started by making really bad short films and shot those, none of which you can find anywhere intentionally. And through that process, learned the basic skills of shooting and lighting and writing and working with a crew, albeit a small crew, on those projects. And that sort of put me in a place where I could do it somewhat on a small scale, with a smaller crew on my first doc. And the rest is history. Going back to my first business, honestly, I was 19 years old and I started a cell phone dealership in Amarillo, Texas. It's kind of like they talk about, would you want to see your life in fast forward if you could? And the answer is always no, because of course you'd see all the pain and suffering that you're going to have to go through. I realized step by step things that I was doing right, things that I was doing wrong.
Let's do it.
The common denominator for me of what kept me moving forward was a strong community of people that had done maybe not this exact thing before, but other successful men and women that could say, hey, I see you're going this way, maybe correct, maybe do it this way. There's an old proverb that says, in the midst of many counselors, there is safety. You can't put your hand up at people trying to help you, people trying to correct you, people trying to redirect you in business, in art, in anything, because it's a trail that you've never been down. As I worked that muscle over and over of trying and failing at multiple businesses, I realized okay, the sky's not going to fall if I make a mistake or 10 in my career. It's like make a lot more mistakes and they're a lot closer together. But through trial and error and guidance from people around me and learning and growing, those errors become a lot further apart. Errors then turn into craft, turn into skill, turn into artistry, and before you know it, I've done more right than I have done wrong, in the past 5, 10, 15 years, and have a lot of, body of work to show for it.
I direct a lot by my hands and by drawing.
Why do some people accomplish and do, and some people don't? I think people could get discouraged. The longer answer is there's lots of reasons that people decide not to. I've heard it described a lot of times as like, taking a step off the cliff, which is that's starting a new business. That's trying to do anything that you want to do that you haven't done before. Become a painter, a musician, a filmmaker. Change comes out of pain, comes out of being tired of where you're at. What keeps a lot of people from taking the first step or from doing versus not doing is a fear of failure, plain and simple. The fear of failure is a real thing. I think it goes back to childhood. It goes back to, like being picked last on the team. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be seen. If you have a real desire to do something that you've never done, whether it's artistically or otherwise, failure must be an option. But fear of failure cannot be an option. we're going to fail at most things in small and large ways until you get it right. If there's any secret sauce to what I do, it's putting one foot in front of the other, pushing the ball up the hill, trusting the process. We may do this much today. We may do this much. Every single day, I'm going to get up and try to push that ball up the hill on the projects that I'm working on, wherever they're at, if we're in post-production or pre-production or even just dreaming mode. Doing is a daily task. And as long as you're kind of putting your hand to the plow every single day, it's kind of like working out. It sucks from day to day, but you do it long enough, you're going to see the results. Being a forever student, I think, is also a common denominator to accomplishing things versus not. I think being that forever student, it keeps you young, it keeps you interested, it keeps you engaged. Being a constant student and constantly doing are a good, for me, a good recipe for success, for actually getting things done. Another thing to talk about is just different personality types. Some people are much, much more risk averse than others. You just need to partner with or surround yourself with at least one other person that's not that way, someone that's willing to take risks. They'll inspire you, they'll take you by the hand, they'll help you, so you don't become crippled in the thinking and the planning and the research. If you're wading in the water and you can stand up straight, then you're probably not going to do your best work. But right when you start to, the water gets, not over your head, but where your feet aren't touching the ground, and you're just, slightly uncomfortable, that's when you're going to do your best work, or that's when you're going to, finally accomplish, the thing that's in your heart. For example, I remember back when the Nintendo Wii first came out. This was the mid-aughts, 06, 07. And we had a lot of game companies calling, saying, hey, we need lifestyle footage. Nintendo is saying, we need to show lifestyle footage of our game. In other words, people, actors. Can you do that? And I had never done that. And of course I said, yes, of course. Yeah, we can do that. And just surrounded myself with people that knew how to do it. Great casting directors, got great talent, great camera ops, directors of photography, audio engineers, and watched them and learned. But I was definitely sort of swimming a little bit there, out of my depth, until I wasn't. We've all heard the saying, trust the process. And it's just very true. I think number one is know the process, be willing to take a risk, be comfortable with that, get more comfortable with that. And then as you're going along your path of becoming a musician or a filmmaker or an engineer or whatever it is, trust the process. And that process is going to include making mistakes and doing things right and wrong. And if that process ends in success, then great, you did it. And if it ends in failure, that's also great. You learned a lot of lessons along the way, and you built those muscles of risk tolerance and failing and getting back up and trying again. I'm not a guru by any means. I've never claimed to be. I'm just here sharing my experience. And so if you're watching this video and seeing this, then take this as your sign to take the first step. Learned a lot, failed a lot, had some great successes as well. Take the first step, which will lead to the second step, which will lead to the third step, which will yield good things. Those good things being what you want, or if it's a failure, you learned. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that love you and that have your best interests in mind, and want to root for your success, because those are the people that are going to be honest with you, help you, correct you, give you resources, support you. It's a daily decision. Get out there, do, and good luck. Yeah, I got that